I feel like the show is finding its footing pretty decently. So I'm more hopeful than I was after the premiere two episodes, which, reminder, I thought the first episode was largely a mess, especially how it started. It was kind of a disaster. Second episode was better overall. And this, I'm not sure it's better than the second episode, but it is now in consistent quality with the second episode, which makes me comfortable in hoping that that will be the standard going forward rather than the real mess of the front half of that first episode. So this did kind of this does a lot of stuff I like. It did kind of dance up to the line on a couple things where I'm like, oh, please don't. But we'll get there. So I guess a follow-up for one of my criticisms that did come from episode 2 is I don't love Vanessa and Fisk needing a counselor. Like I still don't. I appreciate the particular point of pressure for tension between them that they found. I think if you're going to have tension between these two, that's a good nerve to push on. The idea that she was not only kind of supportive of his criminal activities, but her taking over for a while, she was good at it. And now she feels like he's taking that away from her and undermining what they built together in what he's doing with being the mayor. That's a pretty good angle to go for with the way that their dynamic has worked in this particular show. Did I even say what I was reviewing? It's Daredevil, Born Again. I might have forgotten to say that at the front end. I probably already put the thing up anyway, just because it would have seemed awkward otherwise. Regardless. Does the title mention these reviews are rambling? It should, assuming my ADHD, I didn't forget to put it there. But I still would prefer seeing them in their dynamic. Like, I always enjoyed how on the same page they were, how surprised he was that she got him as well as she did. And like, it's not like she stopped getting him. So like, it's not like they broke their dynamic in order to have this tension, but I feel like we got a little bit of this in like, say, the first season, and we got hints of it in the third, but like, I just want more time. I want more time with them being in a good, solid dynamic, and just, you know, I'd rather have that than this. But like, for what this is, it's pretty decent as far as that goes. So the White Tiger plot. Oh, I guess first of all, I hadn't realized when I watched the first two episodes, the actor who played White Tiger actually passed away a little over a year ago. So that's a bummer. He's quite good in the part. And it's a tricky part to like encompass and bring a lot to with the way that it's used here. I do actually kind of like how casually the understanding of the fact that he has a magic amulet is just kind of referenced. Like, oh yeah, he does. We know that. We're not going to dwell on it. Like the fact that it's in court, and that's just like, oh yeah, he has a magic amulet. We all know that. I don't know. I find that funny. In regards to the court stuff, this is kind of where it danced up to frustrating me, because one of the many problems that I had with the second season of Daredevil on Netflix was Matt was a real bad lawyer in that season. It's part of why, like, I'll tell people I don't like the second season, and they'll usually be on board with me not thinking the Elektra and the hand stuff was very good for the most part, but most people still think that the Punisher stuff at the front end was good, and while I'll grant some of it is pretty good, it also tied into the fact that Matt was just a really, really bad lawyer in that, and it ticked me off. They dip into that a little bit here with the whole complete 180 on his plan for how to defend this person, not consulting his client before doing it, just doing these big showy things in courtrooms that like you can't do that. And I'm not a lawyer, but I know enough to know that no, you can't you can't do that. You can't drop a surprise witness who wasn't on the docket and all this other stuff. But the thing was, you do have to grade on a scale when you're talking TV show lawyers. And the thing was that in the second season on Netflix, even by TV lawyer rules, he was bad. He was a bad lawyer. Here, he is decent by TV lawyer rules. So grading on the curve for what this actually is, like, okay, like he again dabbles in a little stuff that made me kind of go, oh, come on, man. But I actually really like the case that he built to defend White Tiger once it was out that he was a vigilante. And the at first I was like, okay, it kind of bugs me that the show is putting so much emphasis through Matt on the idea of like, oh well, he's a good man. And while they are bringing up the idea that the notion that he would go into the subway specifically with the intent to kill cops because he hates cops is completely inconsistent with what we know about how this vigilante operates. Part of me went, they should have put more emphasis on that and less on the he's a good man who does the right thing. But for narrative purposes, it actually works that the balance is the way that it is, because it gives the prosecutor the opening to be like, being a good man doesn't mean you didn't do the wrong thing or do a bad thing at some point, which would have had no weight if they hadn't had Matt put as much emphasis on that as he did. And it gives you that tension of not knowing how the verdict's going to go. And that's usually a good sign of a courtroom drama, especially a TV courtroom drama, is if you're not going in already certain of what the verdict's going to be. And I wasn't sure. And that was good tension. So I think they ultimately, once the reveal happened, getting there was a little clunky, but once the reveal in court happened that he is White Tiger, I think actually it handled it pretty well as far as television courtroom stuff goes. So ultimately that ended up balancing pretty decently. I also I feel like they have the opening to do it proper. I doubt they will, but it feels like right now that the show is coming as close as I would expect anything coming out of Disney to legitimately criticizing the cops. Because there's like when what was his name? Nicky Torres, that witness, was on the stand. I really like that, because like so often you'll see shows where like a witness does the opposite of what they're supposed to do on the stand, and it's played like a twist, or like somebody got conned, or there was something that happened off screen we didn't know. But I really like that there's this emphasis that on one half of the gallery it's just cops, and if this guy is scared of the police and he is staring down just row after row of cops in uniform staring daggers at him after some of them already tried to kill him, yeah, I buy that he switched and that he did it out of fear. They sell it a lot better because they don't sell it as a twist. They sell it as he was scared. And they present it in a way that I get why he's scared. That seems real legitimate to me. So when I said, like, I wonder how far they're going to go with this criticism of the police, they have the potential to do something that I don't think they will. But they have the potential to do something really interesting, which is that we have some cops who are clearly corrupt, have no problem beating people up, have no problem killing people. And what they could do is show that regardless of how many or how few quote unquote bad apples there are, the real problem is that the rest of the cops protect them. Even the ones who don't participate in the violence, in the corruption, still, by and large, adhere to the code of silence that stops those bad actors from ever being rooted out. They protect their own no matter how bad their own are. And that could be a really interesting and I think very legitimate criticism of the police. Because historically, yeah, that's what tends to happen. I doubt they will, because we keep getting emphasis on the Punisher tattoo. Like we see one guy lean over, it's on his neck, which honestly was a little blatant, but I guess they figured that's how they were going to do it. I'm like, dude, really? But I don't hope, in a sense, that I think they'd ever do it, but it would please me so much to see them not show every single cop who does bad stuff or protects the cops who do bad stuff as having that tattoo, as being this sort of just extra violent vigilante cop. And I bet you they're going to do that. I bet that every cop that we see that is identified as being part of the problem is going to have that tattoo somewhere. It'd be real interesting if they didn't. Which I suppose brings us to the very end. I don't think that's Frank. Like, I think that's just one of the cops. Because, otherwise, show his face. Why wouldn't you? And also, unless they are deeply reconsidering how Frank's MO is, he wouldn't take out White Tiger. White Tiger is trying to help people. The person he killed was a corrupt cop. Frank does not protect the police, and I actually expect the fact that Frank does not protect the police, at least when he's being well written, is going to be a big part of the back half of this thing. At least I dang well hope so. Because one of the great ironies of the fact that in real life, some cops will actually put that skull emblem, in as stickers, as patches, as whatever on their uniform or their cars or whatever, is that Frank hates that. Like, if Frank Castle was real and saw cops who did that, they would not be around very long. And that better be where this is going. I would be shocked if it doesn't go there at the very least. But I still expect them to largely try and do the focusing on the bad actors only thing and acting as if it isn't an issue of systemic protection of these people, even by those who are supposedly the good ones. So I doubt it'll go there. They could. It'd sure be interesting. I also kind of like the way in which Fisk is kind of handling things not quite going his way. Because, he obviously personally has a really vested interest in the city not starting to side with vigilantes. That's not something that's going to help him in terms of what he's already done and what he's hoping to accomplish. I will be curious to see if, and the way I would picture this being done is, since Fisk has now gone on record with that BB report thing and being the rule of law must be maintained and I need to keep a promise. I really hope that in some on the street interviews or something next episode, people go, oh, I bet you he had him killed. And what I want to have happen is for Fisk to start getting blamed and to then get pissed at and trying to figure out whoever the hell did it because they're screwing up his plans. I mean, that's the thing with Wilson Fisk. He doesn't take well to having his notions, his plans, his schemes mucked up. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see if that becomes... And it's going to be a bit of a missed opportunity if it doesn't, because, all right, I understand the MCU isn't the real world, but given how conspiratorially minded a lot of people are in the real world, and if you're trying to reflect that even a little bit, there's no way that wouldn't become a very popular conspiracy theory that a guy who just said openly, this was a miscarriage of justice, I need to ensure that, rule of law is maintained, and then the guy he's talking about ends up dead the next night. That's going to be fodder for so many conspiracies, and I hope it will be here too. And if it's not, then what are we doing? We'll see. I'm not preemptively marking it as a criticism, but if we don't follow up on that notion, it's one of the big frustrations that I have sometimes, as someone who is also a writer, being okay, but you set up something that you could have done that would have been really neat, and then you just didn't. And I know sometimes writers don't recognize the potential of their own work, especially when they're working on a deadline and potentially massively rewriting stuff, as parts of this was. But I don't know. We'll see. But this is solid. This is way more good than anything I had issues with. And the things I had issues with were relatively minor. Nothing in this ticked me off the way some of the stuff in episode 1 definitely ticked me off. So this is pretty good stuff. This is setting a good standard. Between this and episode 2, this is setting a good just level of here's the level of quality that is our normal. I'm that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I want to see what your exceptional episodes are, but that's pretty good if that's your benchmark. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. Daredevil Born Again, episode 3. What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. They'll help you know the stuff. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Goddess Elida, Zubin Lafula, Jen, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Andre, Becky Sparks, Claire Wright, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Kasparov, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Toku Blahuvian, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Pal Barabajagal, Mary Mello, Mira G, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. If you want to help me ensure that I can keep these guys fed, as well as the other animals and strange creatures that sometimes occupy my house, check out the rewards on the Patreon. Yeah, hello to you too. Bless you.